Okay, let's unpack this. You've sent us some really compelling material about a unique organization over in Japan, the Japan New Year's Association, and specifically how they're, well, confronting what feels like a huge shift happening right now. You know, the collision of really deep-seated tradition with this tidal wave of cutting-edge AI.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff.
And this isn't just theory, right? Our deep dive today, it's built directly on press releases and actual transcripts from the association and from their representative, Mr. Oshogatsu. It feels like we're getting an unfiltered look almost inside their strategy room as they try to navigate this really rapidly changing world.
That's exactly right. I mean, the core mission for this deep dive is really to peel back the layers. We need to understand precisely how this association plans to not just preserve, but actively promote the traditional culture of Japanese New Year. Especially now, in an age that's just increasingly defined by AI-generated content and, well, endless digital interactions, we really want to get into the specifics, the actual strategies and projects they're rolling out.
Absolutely. So you've given us the raw materials, all this information, and our job really is to guide you, the listener, through the most important bits, the surprising facts, the thought-provoking parts, and help you connect the dots, see the bigger picture. Because they seem to be grappling with a really profound question, I think, about what actually holds value when digital reality can be so easily, faked or manufactured.
And that's the central challenge, isn't it? It's what these sources lay out right from the start. How does an organization whose whole essence is rooted in the physical world, tangible things like decorations, shared meals, communal rituals, face-to-face visits, how do they adapt when digital content can be created instantly at massive scale and, frankly, often without any basis in physical reality at all? What does real-world value even mean in this new paradigm? They seem to see AI as both, well, an existential threat and a potentially powerful tool. It's a real balancing act.
Okay, let's jump right into that framing then. The sources, they open by describing this significant societal shift, and they're really zeroing in on the period around 2025. What's the big change they see unfolding?
Yeah, they pinpoint the explosive advancement of generative AI as the primary driver. What they really highlight is the, well, unprecedented ease with which AI can now create highly convincing, high-quality fake content. We're talking everything. Hyper-realistic images, videos of people who literally don't exist. AI-composed music that sounds totally human-made, complex animation, even synthetic voices that can read scripts or even sing convincingly. It's a whole new ballgame.
Right, and the consequence of that. What happens when fakes are so easy to make?
Well, the direct and, in their view, pretty much inevitable consequence of this is significant pressure. A potential shrinking even for professions that primarily operate, online in the digital realm. The bosses get quite specific, actually. They list things like online models, certain actors and singers whose presence is mainly digital, influencers whose value is purely based on their online persona, composers focused only on digital output, animators doing kind of standard replicable tasks, and even voice actors whose main job is just reading scripts.
And the logic behind that, why those specific jobs?
The logic presented in the source is pretty stark, really. If your main output is digital content designed for screens, and AI can replicate that output faster, cheaper, and increasingly just as well, then your profession faces direct competition. AI basically becomes this powerful, readily available alternative for certain kinds of human labor, tasks, really.
Okay, so this flood of easily created digital stuff, what does that actually do to our concept of value? If digital output becomes so abundant, so easy to replicate, what becomes the premium? What's the rare commodity?
And that leads directly to the core strategic concept they introduce, real-world value. In Japanese, it's shitsusai sei kachi. The sources argue, and I think quite compellingly, that in an era where digital content can be endlessly and often falsely reproduced, activities and interactions grounded in the physical world, activities performed by real individuals demonstrating their, quote, living proof and their tangible passion, these things become inherently more valuable. They become the key differentiator. They possess an authenticity, right? A rootedness in reality that AI-generated content, at least for now, really lacks.
So they draw a line in the sand almost.
Exactly. They use this distinction to draw a pretty sharp contrast between professions. On one side, you have the ones potentially facing pressure. Pure online models, actors or singers who don't perform live, purely online influencers, composers who don't perform their own work, animators doing standard tasks, script reading announcers. Their value is tied up in that digital output that AI can copy. But then on the other side, you have professions they see as stable, maybe even growing. Things like AI generative engineers, the people who actually know how to use these new tools effectively. And then, crucially, stage actors, live musicians and performers, idols who engage in physical performances and fan meet and greets, event staff like campaign girls who interact face-to-face, and announcers who act as MNCs, engaging in live unscripted interaction.
So the dividing line is physicality.
That's what the sources argue, yeah. The crucial hinge point is physical presence and tangible interaction in the real world. That's where this Jitsusai Kachi, this real-world value, comes from.
That's a really thought-provoking way to frame the whole AI impact. It forces you to look beyond just the digital thing itself, the image or the song, and consider the source. Where did it come from, and how do you interact with it? So if your value chain is purely digital, AI looks like a direct threat. But if your value is tied to your physical existence, your live presence, your unique human interaction, then maybe AI is less of a threat, or maybe even a tool to enhance that human value.
Precisely. That seems to be their thinking.
Okay, so armed with this understanding of real-world value, how does the Japan New Year's Association actually plan to differentiate itself? How do they plan to thrive in this emerging AI landscape?
Well, their strategy isn't about resistance. It's definitely one of proactive adaptation. They plan to leverage AI technology, recognizing its power, especially for efficiency in generating digital content. But, and this is critical, they plan to simultaneously and quite aggressively enhance their own real-world value. The core strategy is to use this amplified physical presence, this authentic human connection, these unique, tangible experiences to stand out, to differentiate themselves from what they clearly see as a coming flood of AI-generated cultural content or stuff that just looks traditional online.
Right, avoid getting lost in the noise. And here's where their strategy gets particularly interesting, I thought. A major focus area they highlight is music. Why music? The sources talk about its social significance.
Yeah, the music piece is fascinating. The sources describe the music they're creating, often with AI helping out, as serving multiple, really crucial social roles. First, they see it as a modern vehicle for education. They actually explicitly reference the historical Japanese tradition of using songs and melodies to teach history, morals, culture, especially in times when literacy wasn't widespread. So by weaving the meaning, customs, history of New Year's into lyrics and melodies created with AI's speed and efficiency, mind you, they aim to create engaging educational tools, particularly for young people, for children. It's about revitalizing that idea of music as a kind of cultural inheritance tool.
Using modern tools to revive an old teaching method. Interesting. What else?
Second, music is a key part of their explicit goal to reach what they call the uninterested layers. In Japanese, goirim kanjinsu. This includes young people, maybe foreign tourists too, who might see traditional Japanese culture, including New Year's, as, well, old-fashioned, maybe hard to understand, or just not relevant to their lives.
Okay, so how does music help reach them?
By linking it with modern digital content and pop culture elements, think anime, games featuring their original characters like Etonkora and talent like their Miss Oshogatsu members. And crucially, they plan to perform this music in contemporary settings. Places like DJ events, dance events, places where these target audiences, the uninterested layers, might already be hanging out. The whole idea is to use the accessible, popular format of music, anime, modern events as a kind of cultural bridge, a gateway. Make people curious first, then draw them into the deeper meanings of New Year's traditions.
Like a Trojan horse, but for culture.
Maybe a friendly one. And third, and this circles right back to that Jitsuzai Seikachi, the real-world value, they see music as a powerful way to convey human authenticity, to build empathy.
How do they do that? Especially if AI is involved in making the music.
By creating songs with lyrics that are deeply personal, based on the real-life experiences, the genuine feelings, the individual journeys of their Miss Oshogatsu members, the sources really highlight one song, Me, at my mind, for Miss Oshogatsu Mii, as a perfect example of this.
Okay, so the lyrics are human, but where does the authenticity really manifest?
At physical events, that's the key. Where these real individuals perform the songs live and interact directly with the audience, with attendees. This creates, they argue, a tangible sense of empathy and existence proof. That feeling that you're actually connecting with a real person, their genuine story, something that purely digital content, no matter how slick, struggles to replicate. This human-to-human connection through music and performance is meant to touch hearts, and encourage a more natural transmission of cultural appreciation.
That connection back to empathy and existence proof feels really powerful. It's like they're saying the song itself, maybe even AI-assisted, is just the entry point. The real cultural transmission happens when you meet the person whose actual story is in those lyrics. And this leads us to another concept they mentioned, which sounds related, the evolved 2.5D strategy. Now, many people might know 2.5D from, say, stage plays adapted from manga or anime. How has the association's version evolved?
Right. So the sources first define that traditional 2.5D model. They describe it as relatively linear, mostly a one-way process. You have an original work, like a manga, that's the 2D. It gets adapted into an anime or maybe a game, still largely 2D in how we consume it, or maybe rendered in 3D but viewed digitally. And then maybe it gets adapted into a stage play or a live event with real actors. That's the move into the 3D, the physical dimension. The original creator makes the source material, then other people interpret and adapt it across these different forms and dimensions. It's sequential.
Okay, so that's the standard model. How has theirs evolved?
Their evolved 2.5D strategy is presented as something much more dynamic, integrated. It's described as a fusion, really, and AI plays a critical role here.
Yeah.
AI enables the rapid, high-volume creation of the digital content side. That's music we talked about, the anime, other digital assets. But, and this is the key difference, this digital content isn't the final step. It's designed from the ground up to be intertwined interactively and bidirectionally with the reality side.
The reality side being...
The real people, the Miss Oshogatsu members, and the physical events they hold.
Okay, so how does that interactive, bidirectional thing actually work?
Well, the interaction loop is crucial. The AI-generated digital content featuring their characters, their talent, is designed to spark that initial interest in New Year's culture, to make people think, hey, Oshogatsu actually looks kind of interesting. This digital interest then acts as a funnel. It directs those newly curious individuals towards the real world, towards physical events where they can actually meet and interact with the real Miss Oshogatsu members. And it's in those real-world settings, they argue, that the deeper engagement happens. People learn about the tangible parts of the culture, how to do the decorations, the history behind them, the significance of family bonds during New Year's. So it's a two-way flow. Digital content drives interest in the real. And the real experience provides the depth, the authenticity that anchors that interest and makes it meaningful.
Ah, I see. So it's not just adapting 2D to 3D, it's having them actively influence each other back and forth.
Exactly. And the sources are very clear about why AI is essential to make this evolved approach work. It's AI's ability to rapidly generate the music, the anime sequences, other digital bits that makes the mutual influence between the digital and the real incredibly timely, dynamic. Unlike that slower, traditional adaptation process where a stage play might take years to come out after a hit anime, AI lets them quickly create digital content that promotes an upcoming real-world event. Or, conversely, create new digital content that's inspired by something that just happened at a real-world interaction. It's much faster, much more responsive.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and they explicitly call this strategy a cultural bridge, and also a social contribution model designed specifically for the AI age. The whole point is to meet the uninterested, where they already are often in that digital pop culture space, and then gently guide them towards the tangible, authentic experience of tradition in the real world.
It's a pretty sophisticated model, isn't it? Using the very tools of the modern digital world to drive engagement with the physical world of tradition. Let's get more concrete, though. What are some specific projects or initiatives they've launched or are planning that really embody this strategy? You mentioned a character earlier, Etonkora.
Yes, Etonkora. She's definitely a key character in their strategy, sort of a mascot, but also a digital anchor point. She's designed with versatility right at the core. She's a black cat who cosplays as the various zodiac animals. The sources even explicitly draw a parallel to Kamen Rider Decade, a character known for transforming into past versions of Kamen Riders.
Ah, okay, so she can become any zodiac sign.
Exactly. And the clever part, according to the sources, is making her a cat an animal outside the traditional 12 zodiac signs. It gives her this logical in-universe reason to adopt the appearance of any zodiac animal, which makes her perfect for the yearly transitions of New Year's and allows for really flexible storytelling.
Smart. And where did she first appear?
Her first big public appearance was digital, actually, via the AR Omikuji, those augmented reality fortune slips that they distributed at the Expo event back on May 3rd. That was her public debut. So she was tied immediately to a tangible thing, the Omikuji slip, but experienced digitally through AR. And the sources also confirm they're actively pursuing a trademark for Etonkora, which really indicates their long-term plans. They see her as a central, protected asset.
Right, makes sense. So what's her role within this evolved 2.5D strategy?
It's multifaceted. She's already the star of AI-generated anime content that's up on their YouTube channel. And her design, her backstory, they're carefully crafted for multi-platform expansion. They intend for her to appear in games, manga, merchandise, more anime, the whole package. Her unique worldview, they mentioned something about it being set in a 2025 where the Meiji Restoration didn't happen, specifically on the night of January 1st.
Oh, okay. Alternate history.
Yeah. And her design incorporates isekai elements, the transported to another world genre. She's effectively a cat from another world. Plus, they're deliberately capitalizing on the current cat boom trend in Japan and online. All these choices are deliberate. They're designed to create numerous entry points for modern audiences, especially younger ones, people interested in pop culture.
So the anime isn't just entertainment, it's a hook.
Precisely. The sources highlight that having this AI-generated anime featuring Etonkora gives the association a very rational reason, they call it, to participate in major events focused on anime and manga, like Comic Market in Japan or big overseas expos. These events draw massive crowds who are already interested in Japanese culture, even if it's often through that modern pop culture lens. So by being there with Etonkora content, they can effectively promote the traditional culture she represents, but within a context that feels relevant and exciting to that audience.
That character sounds like a really clever way to make tradition feel approachable, maybe even cool, for a new generation. Speaking of bridging those gaps, the sources go into quite a bit of detail about a specific song. It's called Me at My Mind, and it was created for Miss Oshogatsu Mii. Can you tell us more about that one?
Yeah, this song is presented as a really prime example of their strategy in action. Me at My Mind is basically, well, a musical biography of Miss Oshogatsu Mii's life. Mr. Oshogatsu himself wrote the lyrics, making sure that human personal element was right there at the core. But the composition, the arrangement, even the singing voice on the track, that was handled by AI.
So human lyrics, AI music, and vocals. How does that connect to the authenticity idea?
The personal details woven into those human-written lyrics are absolutely crucial to its purpose. The sources specifically mention lyrics incorporating details about Mii's actual hometown Uwajima in Ehime Prefecture. They even include local cultural practices and specific New Year's food from that region. They highlight one dish called Fukumen, which Mr. Oshogatsu apparently only learned about because Mii posted about it on her personal social media.
Wow, so direct input from her real life.
Exactly. It shows how the talent's real life directly inspires the content. The song also touches on her family's unique traditions, something about 3 generations inheriting and wearing the same kimono. This deep integration of personal, verifiable details is explicitly intended to align the song with that goal of using music to prove human authenticity, to provide lived proof in this AI era.
Okay, but Mii isn't a singer, right? So how does she perform this song about her life?
Right, that's another fascinating part. The sources describe her as the non-singing protagonist of the song. Since she's not primarily a vocalist, her performance relies entirely on dance. And the sources make a point of emphasizing her impressive and varied dance background. She does hula, Japanese traditional dance, and a range of street dance styles, hip-hop, breaking. They also mention she's quite popular on TikTok already.
So she uses her existing skills and platform?
Precisely. Her physical performance through dance is seen as adding that vital human emotion and dynamism that the AI-generated vocal track, however good, can't provide on its own. It brings the story and the lyrics to life through her body.
That's a really interesting collaboration between human skill and AI creation.
Isn't it? And there's another layer to it. Apparently, the AI actually created 2 distinct musical versions, using the same lyrics written by Mr. Oshogatsu. One version is arranged in a traditional Japanese style, perfect for her Japanese traditional dance skills. The other is a K-pop influence version, more suited for her hip-hop or breaking styles.
And she chose which ones to use.
Yes. The sources say Mii herself chose these 2 versions from 7 different options the AI generated. So again, you see the human element guiding the technology, tailoring it to fit her specific real-world abilities and performance style.
Okay, so they have the song, the performer.
Yeah.
What about getting it out there? What are their release plans?
Well, the sources indicate it was originally scheduled for a pre-release on TikTok around June 7th, 2025, but apparently it didn't clear the platform's review process in time, so that got delayed.
Ah, okay. Platform hurdles.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So the world premiere is now planned for the Osaka-Kansai Expo, specifically on July 17th, 2025. That's the big debut. And then, following the expo, the plan is to get the song streaming on platforms like Spotify and release videos of her dance performances on TikTok and Instagram, so it completes that loop. AI-assisted creation, real-world premiere performance, and then back to digital distribution to reach a wider audience.
It really is a perfect little microcosm of their whole strategy, isn't it? Using AI for efficient creation, grounding it in the physical presence and unique talent of a real person, and then using digital platforms to amplify it. Beyond this specific song and the expo focus, what other physical events or digital initiatives are they pursuing or planning?
Well, the Osaka-Kansai Expo is definitely a huge focal point for them this year. They seem really encouraged by the success they had on May 3rd, distributing 1,000 of those AR omikuji units in just 4 hours, which, the sources note, they largely attribute to the help of the Miss Oshogatsu members who were actually there interacting with people.
Right, that real-world presence making a difference.
Exactly. So building on that, they have several key dates coming up at the expo. They're scheduled for July 17th. That's a joint booth with someone else, apparently. Then July 19th and also October 5th. But the sources are also quite candid about the challenges. Their planned October 6th date got canceled because they didn't receive a necessary subsidy. Bureaucracy happening.
Risk factor.
Yeah. And they also anticipate needing more staff, more help for the July 19th and October 5th dates, specifically because those fall during expected peak attendance periods. July 19th is apparently the start of summer vacation in Osaka, and October 5th is just a week before the expo closes. So they're expecting huge crowds and know they'll need more people on the ground to manage interactions, distribute things like the AR omikuji effectively.
Okay, and speaking of the AR omikuji, what's the status with that project now? You mentioned it was a success in terms of distribution volume.
Right, volume was good, but the sources mentioned that the app itself had some glitches back on May 3rd. It was apparently still a concept model, not the final polished production version. So a crucial next step for them is finalizing that AR omikuji app, getting it stable and working perfectly. And alongside that, preparing really attractive promotional materials like flyers. This is essential because their bigger goal is to get shrines and temples across Japan to actually adopt this AR omikuji system. The sources kind of imply this adoption hasn't happened widely yet, which is a key challenge for them.
So they need to sell the shrines on the idea.
Exactly. The vision is for the AR omikuji to become a tool that shrines and temples can use to attract visitors, especially around the New Year period, providing a modern, engaging link between technology and these traditional physical locations.
Okay, so that's the expo and the AR tech. What about other physical events?
There's another significant one planned very soon after the expo date, July 18th, 2025, in Namba, Osaka. The location is described as being near an Akiba-like street, referring to areas like Tokyo's Akihabara, hubs for anime, manga, gaming, idol culture, often attracts a younger pop culture savvy crowd.
Right, targeting that uninterested layer again.
Seems like it. The venue might even be a concept cafe. And interestingly, Mr. Oshogatsu mentioned meeting the owner through the Team XPO 2025 program, showing how they're leveraging those networks. The plan for the event itself, a dance performance. Miss Oshogatsu Mii will perform Me at My Mind live with Mr. Oshogatsu potentially DJing the track. It's a perfect illustration of the strategy. Take the AI-generated song, bring it to life through a physical live performance in a location specifically chosen to reach that target demographic, creating direct fan interaction and boosting that all-important real-world value.
Any other members involved?
They mentioned hoping Miss Oshogatsu Rippi could participate in future events like this. They even offered to create a similar biographical song for her if she's available and interested. But this highlights another challenge, the availability and maybe the willingness of the Miss Oshogatsu members themselves. Rippi is noted as being very busy, and another member, Miss Araki from Tokyo, is apparently less enthusiastic about this specific type of performance activity.
So managing the human element is key.
Absolutely. And Mr. Oshogatsu, according to the sources, is quite firm on why this is so important. He reiterates his view that for performers, actors, singers, idols to actually sustain careers in the AI age, they must engage in these types of live physical activities, activities that build real-world value through direct presence and performance. He contrasts this very sharply with relying solely on online activity, which he sees as increasingly vulnerable to AI replication.
It's a strong stance on the future of performance.
It really is. Now, moving to another intriguing digital initiative they mention, they plan to utilize NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
Okay, NFTs. That market's had its ups and downs. Why are they interested?
Their specific reason is directly tied back to that AI authenticity challenge we keep talking about. In a world where AI can easily create realistic but totally fake images or videos of people, they see NFT technology using the blockchain to create that verifiable, immutable record of ownership and transaction history as a way to prove the authenticity and the provenance of a digital asset, like a photo or video of a Miss Oshogatsu member.
So it's like a digital certificate of authenticity.
Exactly. By selling these NFTs directly from the members themselves, it serves as, quote, existence proof, a digital certificate backed by the blockchain, confirming that this specific content genuinely originated from this specific real person. The sources acknowledge that the speculative investment side of the NFT market has cooled off significantly, but they believe this new value proposition using NFTs to verify real-world existence and authenticity in the face of AI deepfakes could potentially bring renewed relevance and attention, both to the technology and to their project. It's a different angle on NFTs.
That's actually a really interesting application in this context. Using the tech not for speculation, but for verification of reality. So they're really attacking this from multiple angles, aren't they?
Right.
Using AI for scale and efficiency in content creation, leveraging live physical events for that genuine human connection and real-world value, and even exploring blockchain tech like NFTs to certify digital authenticity in an age of fakes. What about some of their other ongoing work, maybe less flashy, but still important initiatives mentioned in the sources?
Yeah, they touched on several other foundational and forward-looking projects as well. Their certified instructor program, for instance, is slated for expansion. This initiative apparently gained new momentum after they discovered that themes related to New Year's are actually included in the national curriculum in Japan, all the way from kindergarten right through high school.
Oh, interesting. So it's officially recognized as important.
Right. So they're currently preparing comprehensive study materials based on that, and they're actively seeking collaboration with MEXT. That's Japan's Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. The hope is to potentially integrate their certification program or their materials more formally into the education system. As of the date of the sources, though, they were still waiting for a response from MEXT.
Okay, that could be big if it happens. What else?
Their official website is already a significant asset. Apparently, it gets around 200,000 accesses annually, which is pretty substantial. Recognizing the global interest in Japanese culture, they're working on expanding their foreign language support. They already have English, German, and French sections, but they're planning to add more to make their resources even more accessible internationally.
Good outreach.
Then there's the monthly Oshogatsu publication. This might have traditionally been like a print flyer or newsletter. It's currently on hiatus, but they're planning a digital shift for it, likely using platforms like Instagram to share that kind of monthly update or information more dynamically, more efficiently than traditional print.
Adapting to digital platforms again.
Exactly. And for their Oshogatsu test, which certifies people as Oshogatsu advisors, they've successfully secured the trademark for the name Oshogatsu Kente. This was apparently pending payment as of early June 2025, but securing the trademark is strategically important. It gives them exclusive legal rights to use that specific name for their certification, which means brand protection and exclusivity in that niche market.
Locking down their brand. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then there are other ongoing things mentioned more briefly. Some confidential patent applications, likely related to their technology use, like the AR Omikuji, research into developing new New Year's-themed merchandise, and continuing existing programs like the AR Omikuji Waka contest that's collecting traditional Japanese poems related to the fortunes, and another contest to collect unique New Year's stories and customs from different regions across Japan, preserving that diversity.
Lots of groundwork happening, too.
Definitely. And finally, they briefly outlined their broader goals for future expansion. This includes actively seeking external funding or investment to really fuel growth. And to make that more feasible, more attractive to potential investors, they're considering restructuring part of the organization, potentially separating the content creation and business side of things into a distinct stock company, a kabushiki kaisha. That's a standard legal structure in Japan for businesses looking for venture capital or other investment, as it provides a clear corporate entity for investors to deal with.
Wow. Okay, when you lay it all out like that, it's incredibly clear. This isn't just some traditional organization sort of dipping its toes into technology. It's really multi-pronged strategy. It feels deeply thought out, aiming to meet these huge challenges of the AI age head-on, specifically by amplifying the value of what AI can't easily replicate.
That really is the essence of their approach, isn't it? They're proactively embracing AI for the parts it's good at, generating digital content efficiently at scale, helping them create things like the music, the anime. But crucially, they are simultaneously investing heavily in and really highlighting the aspects where humans and the physical world still hold the advantage. Genuine human interaction, tangible experiences, physical presence, and that unique, verifiable authenticity of a real person's life, their passion, their skills, like Mii's dance. And it's so important to remember their explicit target, as we discussed earlier. It's not just the existing enthusiasts, the people who already love New Year's culture. It's those vast, uninterested layers. Their entire strategy, really, from Etonkora, the cat mascot, to the K-pop influenced music, the DJ events in Namba, it's all designed to build these bridges using modern pop culture and technology. And then the hope is to lead people from that initial digital interest towards the authentic, tangible experience of tradition in the real world.
It really does force you to reconsider where value actually lies in a world that's just becoming saturated with digital content, much of it potentially AI generated. It makes you think about how other traditional arts or cultural practices or even whole industries built on human creativity might need to adapt. What ultimately stands out most to you from this deep dive into their strategy? Is there one thing that really jumps out?
For me, it's actually a slightly surprising thread that's kind of woven throughout the sources. It's about the nature of tradition itself, as noted by Mr. Oshogatsu. He makes this subtle but important point of distinguishing between the often sanitized, formalized version of tradition that we commonly see presented or maybe perceive, and the sometimes messy, maybe not so nice, or just unexpectedly diverse reality that he's personally encountered through his extensive research into actual New Year's customs across different parts of Japan over the years.
So tradition isn't always neat and tidy.
Exactly. And that background detail makes me wonder, it suggests that their willingness to adopt these seemingly unconventional, maybe even jarring methods like, introducing a cat mascot at an anime-adjacent event or using DJ performances to promote traditional culture. Maybe it stems from a desire to present a version of tradition that feels more authentic to its roots, more dynamic, perhaps less rigid than the common perception, making it relatable even if it requires using these untraditional means. It feels like a very pragmatic view of how to keep a living culture actually alive.
That's a fascinating layer. Okay, so what does this all mean for us, for you listening? We've taken a pretty deep dive into how this one organization, the Japan New Year's Association, is leveraging AI, music, characters, and this whole evolved 2.5D strategy. They're tackling the challenge of preserving and promoting New Year's culture in our increasingly digital age. And they're placing a really significant strategic bet on the enduring and perhaps even increasing value of real-world presence, authentic human connection, and creating those tangible experiences that AI-generated content just can't replicate.
Yeah, and this raises a really important question, I think, for all of us watching this unfold. In a future that's being rapidly reshaped by AI, where digital content can be created on an almost unimaginable scale, how else might the perceived value, the economic value, the cultural value of physical presence, of genuine human connection, of verified, authentic experience, how might that fundamentally shift? Could it potentially grow even more important? And thinking beyond Japan, how might other traditional cultures, perhaps ones that you personally care about, find innovative, maybe even surprising ways to thrive? How can they find that crucial balance between leveraging digital reach and grounding themselves in tangible human reality? It's definitely something to consider as we move further and further into this AI era.